Alrighty, today we have another viewer question. This is from Amish Tech Guy, and he asks, "How is marriage a good thing for men?"
Marriage should only be considered if you share the same goals, same values, and ideally, if you're going to raise a family together, if you want to raise children together, you're going to have a much higher likelihood that your kids are going to turn out to be human beings that you're proud of if you raise them together as a family. If the kids see dad loving, communicating, and courting mom properly, and mom being sweet and joyful and playful and jumping into his arms when he comes home from work every day and slays the dragons, the kids will get to see a healthy, happy relationship so they can emulate it. When you have kids that grow up in divorced families, or you got one parent that's got a good relationship with their new spouse or significant other, and then you got the other parent who doesn't, usually when the kids get a little older, then they can kind of tell who knows what's going on and who doesn't. Because when you're little, you look at your parents, you think your parents are gods, they know everything. But as you start to get into like middle school and especially the teenage years, you realize that, you know what, mom and dad, not only do they not know everything, there's a lot that they don't know. And so, as far as getting married, you gotta have the same goals, same values. If a guy's gonna marry a girl, she should ideally, if you want to have the best possible chance for success, come from a good family. Parents love each other. The parents communicate like adults. They're not hotheads. They're not yelling and screaming at one another. Because no matter whether you're a man or a woman, whatever environment you grow up in, you become emotionally conditioned and anchored to living that way and being that way. And you'll attract people into your life that live that way and think that way as well. Also, things like, we talk about body count sometimes. If you're wanting to wipe up a girl who's 30 and she slept with 300 guys, she's probably not going to be loyal and faithful to you, because that's kind of psychopathic behavior. The men that I've known over the course of my life that have body counts in the hundreds, they never really stick with one woman. It's not healthy, because if you're sleeping with that many different women, you're just hooking up for sex. There's no emotional connection. There's no emotional bond. And whether it's a man or a woman, the more sexual partners somebody has, the less, the stats back this up, the less likelihood that they're going to stay together with that person. Now, at the end of the day, we all need to get experience. We need to get experience in the bedroom. We need to get experience with dating different people so we know what we like and what we don't like, what we want, and what we don't want. You got to have the same goals, similar values. You got to be able to communicate. Ideally, you should live in a state where, like, we live in the free state of Florida, which the divorce laws are pretty good. But if you go to California and some of those other blue states, the laws are completely slanted against the guy. And if you're going to get married in one of those states, talk to a few friends that live there that have gone through divorces and ask them what their experience was like. Even if you have a prenuptial agreement in some of those states, it's, you get an attorney that's, chirping in the ear of your soon-to-be ex-wife, and it can easily go from an amicable divorce to something really nasty, because, a lot of divorce attorneys are just vampires. It's in their interest to keep the conflict going so they can keep billing you by the hour. So you gotta think. I saw this quote. I think it was like Life's Little Instruction Booklet or something like that. And I remember there was a quote in it, and it said, "Choose very carefully the person that you spend your life with, because 95% of your happiness or your misery is going to come from that one decision."
I think you have to weigh the pros and cons of it, if it actually makes sense for you. So, for instance, if you're in the military, you're an active service member, it actually makes a lot of sense to get married. I think that's why a lot of people do get
Yeah, but
military.
you don't go, because a lot of military guys do this and they're famous for that. Don't go and wife up a stripper that you've known for a few weeks and then go get deployed and then be
Uh,
shocked that she
yeah.
slept with half of your friends while you were away.
Yeah, but even if they're in the military, like if you're not happy with them, you shouldn't have to be with them,
Yeah, I
even
have
though
a
they have
friend.
that pressure. Like,
It's funny you mentioned. I have a friend who's in the military. He's like, yeah, he wants to marry a stripper, and
That's a
he gets
bad way to
he gets to
go.
live off base, gets a higher pay. Boom.
yeah, but that's kind of impulsive.
I've done countless phone sessions over the years with guys that have done exactly that, and they're just stunned because they didn't vet their girls properly. That's
Yeah, I don't
like
know
we're
how they're
talking about. You
done for
got to
that.
vet the person you're with. Do they have the same goals and same values? Are you planning on having children together and raising a family? And if not, then maybe you live together, you cohabitate together, but you shouldn't marry somebody unless your goal is to present a strong family to the child so you can both raise children that you're proud of. Someday you can say,
Yeah.
those that's my kid, that's my son, that's my daughter.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't be getting married if you're just doing it for the benefits.
Yeah.
If you're just
Yeah.
doing it for a tax cut, I don't know if that's the best reason. I don't know if you put that in your vows or not. I don't know.
That's just bad thinking.
You know, you also mentioned as well in regards to household environment, how that affects the person. I actually know people who were raised with parents who are happily married and have been married for decades, and yet they, they were raised with that, yet the way that they view dating is completely different, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's no
Yeah.
guarantee that just because she came from a good family that she's going to be great in relationships herself, but the likelihood is much higher. Women who love and value and respect themselves aren't sleeping with, half the city before they decide to settle down. Because it's not a victory, it's not something to be proud of. It's not like a big accomplishment if a beautiful woman is able to sleep with a bunch of guys. I mean, the reality is uh, any mediocre, average-looking woman can go out pretty much any night of the week, go to any bar, any nightclub, out in public, and go up to a dude and ask them to go home and sleep with them, and most guys will probably say yes to that. So that's not an accomplishment for a beautiful, hot girl to slept with dozens and dozens of dudes. It shows that she doesn't care about herself. She doesn't value herself. She's giving away her body. Like I had this one friend that was also in real estate years ago, and this is going back till I was like in my late 30s, and we were all hanging out one night. I was actually Andy, the German guy. We were out. It was a mutual friend of ours, and we would go out. It was this real pretty girl. I think she was in her like late 20s at the time. Very successful, had a good career, and then she would just get hammered and then just kind of wobble around and then start talking to some dude, and minutes later she'd be making out with him, and then a half hour later she'd be leaving to go home and sleep with the guy. And then I remember there was one time we were out and she did that, and she was just probably about 45 minutes after she left, she calls Andy crying, "Oh, you're gonna come pick me up." And she kind of came to when she was in the car going back home with yet another strange dude that she knew for like 10 minutes. And so we went and had to go pick her up. Her makeup's running down her face. And it's just like, I just remember watching her in her body language, her physiology. She just did not care for herself. She didn't value herself. She would get absolutely hammered and then just go home with any dude that showed her a little bit of attention. And then the next week it'd be some other dude because she didn't love herself. She didn't care about herself. And that's just a bad way to go. Whereas a good woman who values herself, knows that sex, making love is a sacred thing to her, and she's not going to just share herself with any schmuck that comes along.